Hey friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a fun card for you guys using Lawn Fawn's Critters in the Arctic and the new Nitpicky Fall 6x6 pattern paper pad. I've stamped my images out on Bristol smooth surface cardstock with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to be watercoloring with my Zig Clean Color real brush markers today. I'm starting with number 066 Dark Oatmeal, and I'm going to lay in some shadows on the moose's legs. I'm going to work in sections because I don't want the ink to settle too much into the paper. And then I'm going to blend out with number 064 Oatmeal. I'm leaving a little white space on each of the legs so that I can come in with some clean clear water and a paintbrush and blend that color out and really get it looking nice and soft. The paintbrush that I'm using is a number 2 round black velvet from the Silver Brush Company, and I really love how it has that really fine detailed edge so that you can really get into all those little cracks and crevices. I'm moving on to his upper body, and I'm going back to my 066 Dark Oatmeal. I'm being a little bit more heavy-handed around his neck area, not only because his head is large and it would cast a shadow, but also because moose typically have a darker patch of fur in that area of their bodies, so I wanted to accentuate that. So then I'm blending out with the 064 Oatmeal and some clean clear water. I will probably have to come back in with a second layer to build up that color, but for now I wanted it to be nice and soft. And then I'll just color in his tail as well. For his head, I'm going to do the shadows up at the top underneath those large antlers, and then alongside his face. I'm going to be a little bit more sparing on his face with the color because I really want it to be nice and light so that you can see his features clearly and that they don't get kind of lost in all the color. So again, just blending out with that clean clear water and making everything nice and smooth. For his antlers, I'm starting with 067 Mustard for my shadows, doing a little bit on the bottom edge and then in between each of those sections of the top. And then I'm going to blend out with number 071 Flesh Color, just doing little circular motions and pulling that color across the paper. That is why I love using this Bristol smooth surface. It has that vellum coating that really allows the ink to sit on the top of the paper for a little while so that you can push it around, and that's why you're able to blend more easily than with other cardstocks. For his hooves, I started with 065 Mid Brown, and that wasn't quite dark enough for me, so I went to 062 Dark Brown and added a little bit of that as well. And then I'm just going to blend that out with my paintbrush. And as you can see, even in that tiny little area, this paintbrush works so well. For the bunny, I'm starting with 096 Mid Gray and doing my shadows down along her right side and then under her belly and on the sides of her legs. Then I'm going to grab 091 Light Gray and blend that out. I wanted her to be a really light gray, almost white, and this combination is going to work well for that, while that darker color is going to add some definition to her body. I also made sure to add a little shading both above and below that scarf, because there would be a shadow cast there as well. And again, as with the moose, I'm going to make sure to keep the face nice and light so that you can really see her features. I also added just a touch of 091 Light Gray to her tail to give that a little definition as well. Now that my moose is dry, I'm going to go back and add that second layer just underneath his head and underneath his belly. So I used the 066 Dark Oatmeal first, and then I'm blending out with the 064 Oatmeal, and then I'll just take my clean clear water once again and soften that into the rest of the color. Then I decided that the area on the top of his head also could use just a little bit more definition, especially with those massive horns that they have. I just wanted to make sure that the shading was consistent across the entire image, so I just added a little bit more at the top of his head and made sure to blend it all out. For the background, I'm scribbling some color onto an acrylic block. I used number 042 Turquoise Green for the sky, and I apologize if that footage got lost. And then I'm using number 047 May Green for the grass. Scribbling it off onto an acrylic block first, and then picking that up with a damp paintbrush just ensures that the background is really soft and subtle, which is the look that I was going for. I saved the bunny scarf for last because I knew I wanted to do it red, and reds are notorious for bleeding. So I started with 024 wine red, and then I'm adding a little 025 pink. And that is going to give me a really deep fuchsia shade that I thought would match really well with the pattern papers that I wanted to use on today's card. So once I finish up this last bit, I'm going to set this panel aside to dry completely and move on with the rest of my card. For my sentiment, I'm using an additional piece of Bristol and stamping with that same VersaFine Onyx Black ink that I used to stamp my images out earlier. And I'm stamping out the little speech bubble that says "Hi there" from Lawn Fawn's Chit Chat. And there's a look at that set. So while I have my Misty out, I'm also going to stamp the inside of my card. I'm using Lawn Fawn's Merman ink to stamp out the owl from Critters in the Arctic, and also an additional sentiment from Chit Chat. And since that is a solid image, that speech bubble, I didn't get a great impression the first time, so I'm going to ink that up a second and actually a third time just to get a really good impression. I'm mainly just inking up the speech bubble so I can get really solid coverage. I've trimmed out my pattern paper using the Lawn Fawn outside in stitch rectangle stackables and also the reverse stitch scallop square windows on the center. And then I die cut an additional panel out of some plain white cardstock just to give it a little bit more stability. So I'm gluing those together with some liquid glue. I've added some foam tape to the back of that and also trimmed down my focal panel so I can peel off the release papers and line up that frame over the panel and then just press that down to pick it up right where I want it. Then I'll peel off that last bit of tape backing and add some more liquid glue to the panel. And then I'm going to flip that over and add that to my card base, just lining that up in the center so I have that bit of blue cardstock poking through on all sides and making sure that it's nice and even. Then I have two additional pieces of pattern paper that I've trimmed down. These are all from the Nitpicky Fall collection, so they're going to coordinate perfectly. So I picked out a hot pink kind of fuchsia pattern that is going to match the bunny's scarf, and then also a little green knit pattern that brings out the color of the grass. And of course the card base brings out the color of the sky. I added some foam tape to one half of the speech bubble, but when I went to press it into place, the ink was not completely dry and it smudged. So this ink takes a really long time to dry, so you either need to heat set it or just leave it for a lot longer. So I knew I was going to have to replace that speech bubble. I decided to restamp it in Lawn Fawn's walnut ink, and that kind of ties in the color of the moose, and as an added benefit it is a dye ink so it dries immediately. As a finishing touch, I decided to die cut a small heart using Chit Chat and some more pattern paper. This has the same kind of knit print as the green pattern paper that I used below, except on a slightly larger scale. And I'm just going to add that to the speech bubble with a little more liquid glue. There's another peek at the inside, and that completes our card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's a great way to show your support. You can also click that notification bell if you want to be sure that my videos always end up in your feed. Here's two extra videos I thought you guys might also enjoy, so hopefully those will tide you over if you feel like watching on. And thank you guys so much again. I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye-bye.